sun. And Shannon is somebody that I've just admired for so long. And I'm super excited that we were able to fit into her schedule to be able to bring her and all of her wisdom and insights to you today. Shannon is Hopi and Diné from the southwest homelands of Arizona and New Mexico. She is Towering House clan born for red running into the Water Clan. Her Hopi clans are Masa, Bear, Sand, and Snake clan. Shannon comes from 12 generations of farmers, ethnobotanists, and seed keepers. She's the executive director of Spirit of the Sun in Denver, Colorado. And her talk is on planting ancestral seeds of transformation for the next 7 generations. So, what is our role and responsibility to be a good ancestor? How can we look to Indigenous knowledge and traditional ecological knowledge to reimagine a new paradigm shift? And thinking back to 7 generations ago, how our ancestors, their decisions, how they took care of the lands, sacrificed, fought, and died so that we can exist the way that we do today. So, how can we plan for the next 7 generations to come? And how can we put the rights of Mother Earth and rematriation at the forefront in our everyday lives? And what better day than Mother Earth Day to have this conversation? So thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us, and take it away. I'm so honored.
Thank you, Hyaha. Freedom, liberation, and self-determination starts with Earth Day remitration. Action on behalf of life transforms because the relationship between self and the world is reciprocal. It is not a question of first getting enlightened or saved and then acting. As we work to heal the earth heals us. This is one of my favorite all-time readings, Native Earth Mother Reminder Teachings. As Earth Day arrives, I am reminded as a matriarch of my family of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, my granddaughters already carry the eggs of the next generation with gifts of reciprocity, nurturing, and protecting our Mother Earth. I thought it would be more appropriate on this day to read and share these teachings with you. So this quote came from, I'm not sure if you're familiar or read the book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. Robin Wall Kimmerer is Potawatomi. She's also a botanist and author of this book, and she has several other books as well. When I started reading this book, I had to read like literally one chapter at a time because I would take a few days to reflect in between chapters, and just reminding us that a lot of this needs to be an intergenerational exchange of knowledge. And most nations, our environment, our outdoors classroom, they were our classrooms. And a lot of what Robin says in her books, it just brings back to home for me. So I wanted to share some more. Women have a natural bond with water because we are both life bearers. My sister said, we carry our babies in internal ponds and they come forth into the world on a wave of water. It is our responsibility to safeguard the water for all our relations. Robin shares with us, this is really why I made my daughters learn to garden, so they would always have a mother to love them long after I'm gone. As the water wars become closer to us every day, we as humans have to find solutions together to ensure there is clean water for all. This is not just a human right, but a human responsibility for all living things. Our animal, water, and plant relatives cannot speak for themselves, so we must be that voice for those that cannot speak. In some native languages, the term for plants translates to those who take care of us. To be native to a place, we must learn to speak its language. Knowing that you love the earth changes you, activates you to defend and protect and celebrate. But when you feel that the earth loves you in return, that feeling transforms a relationship from a one-way street into a sacred bond. We are all indigenous to a specific bioregion going back 1,000 years. Our indigenous ancestors fought, sacrificed, and died to make way for you to exist. Honor your ancestors by doing the right thing to create a better world for your children and grandchildren. After my own mother passed away in September of 2022, I have always felt close with her through the energy that she gave back to our Mother Earth, which surrounds me with all that her energy and body sacrificed to give me life. I remind my grandchildren we are only here for a short time and to pass on the responsibilities of my people to continue caring for the next 7 generations. Each person, human or no, is bound to every other in a reciprocal relationship. Just as all beings have a duty to me, I have a duty to them. If an animal gives its life to feed me, I am in turn bound to support its life. If I receive a stream's gift of pure water, then I am responsible for returning a gift in kind. Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift. As I'm reminded of the horrific acts of genocide and ethnic cleansing happening in Palestine, I am reminded of the genocide of Turtle Island over 500 years ago. I am also reminded of the acts of kindness, prayers, and healing, love we can give here to the water. In turn, those prayers in the water will be carried around the world. Paying attention is a form of reciprocity with the living world, receiving the gifts with open eyes and open heart. We need acts of restoration, not only for polluted waters and degraded lands, but also for our relationship to the world. We need to restore honor to the way we live, so that when we talk through the world, we don't have to avert our eyes with shame, so that when we can hold our heads up high and receive the respectful acknowledgement of the rest of the earth's beings. We are all working to build trust with each other. Let's practice more acts of compassion, forgiveness, and learning how to apologize are just the beginning of mindfulness. Teach yourself to fall in love with Mother Earth. By teaching these positive, nurturing roles and behaviors to our youth, they will in turn teach the next generation on seeing the natural world as family and relatives. They will hold our mother and safeguard her as the next generation of the Earth Mother's protectors and seed keepers. Earth Mother's water protectors and seed keepers. What does freedom, self-determination, and liberation mean to you? What are you willing to sacrifice for your future ancestors? Imagine a world of clean water, air, and soil 1,000 years from now. What can you do to make this world a better place for all? So most of these quotes were from the book Braiding Sweetgrass, and I'm reminded daily our language, we all come from an Indigenous bioregion. So that language, ceremonies, songs, stories, food, culture, all of these they come from a bioregion. And so we're made up of different bioregions, but all of that genetic memory is in our blood. It's in our DNA, and it can reawaken at any time. In order to be able to remember some of our ancestral memory, we have to practice putting our hands in the soil, really healthy soil, to be able to awaken our nervous system and wake up our genetic memory. We as humans have the knowledge to help Mother Earth restore that balance. Yet we as humans are pitiful. We're driven by egos, by power. And a lot of this is trying to set that foundation. What does that foundation look like that we want to see in our toddlers by the time that they're my age? What type of leaders are they going to be? That foundation for my people in the Hopi way are taught the creation stories, the songs, the dances, our language. That sets the precedence of a foundation with the natural world, with Mother Earth, first and foremost. That way, when we go on to public school, formal public education, we're not quite brainwashed, and we have that foundation to fall back on and as a reminder. So when in times of despair, I look to remembering my childhood memories. So my childhood memories are always about, I'm always reminded of the childhood memories of playing in the sand, grinding sandstone like I was pretending to grind corn and mimic the domestic behaviors of the women or the roles and the responsibilities. And also doing things like making dollhouses in the sand with whatever we could find. We had these little, we call them meme'es. They look like they're bones, and the different sizes of the bones, they look like little people. So I would go around looking for meme'es, and I would have my little house in the sand with rocks and sticks and making furniture. The smell of the sand, the smell of the rain back home, and the smell of cedar, burning cedar in the village, it takes me back home. So whenever I smell cedar burning, I go to that place of peace where I was brought up as a child and a baby. Back in the day before cell phones and technology, we used to have a town crier. So that town crier would announce the news, usually at the end of the day in the evening before the sun was going down, and you could hear him yelling in Hopi to everyone, announcing the news, whether there was a wedding or there was an upcoming dance. I would remember the absolute stillness and quiet of Kikotsumori, of my village, and sometimes an uncomfortable quiet silence, and all you would hear for miles around would be a car driving every now and then. But you could hear conversations in the village. That's how quiet it was. But he would amplify his voice and tell of the news, and we don't have that anymore. But those are the things that I was brought up with, remembering my happy place back in the village and on my grandpa and my grandma's land, and being raised by them as well. I was raised by both grandparents. Every summer going out there and spending time at Hopi and spending time at Shiprock. And I believe that a lot of that nurturing from my grandparents helped molded me. That helped mold me into who I am. Along with the elders here today in Denver, a lot of elders that have passed on who are my mentors. American Indian Movement of Colorado is my second family. And I learned a lot through Colorado AIM on a lot of accountability, being accountable, holding others accountable. And I ran with AIM. I still run with AIM. I was arrested in 2007 for the Four Directions March, the Columbus Holiday Parade protest. And I was arrested with 86 other people. And standing up for something that you believe, I had decided that it was time to make my stand. And what was that going to look like? What was the objective and the goal? Being arrested was the least I could do. Knowing that my ancestors and my grandmothers and great grandmothers, everyone before me, had to sacrifice. And my mother, she was working on a genealogy and writing her book about our family going 12, 13, 14 generations back. All the pandemics that had happened, my family had, my grandfather, Willard Sakaista, was senior, really tracked a lot that was happening in the village, not just with our own families and pandemics, but tracked insects that were coming through, things that were evolving because of climate change. And our people had told the world about 150 years ago that this was going to happen and we were going into climate change. There's no word for climate change in our native language, but this transformation is happening and it has to go through its cycle. So unfortunately, we as humans are caught up in that cycle, but we've also caused this to happen. We've just progressed it. And we're just at the very beginning of it. And so what can we do to set that path for the next 1,000 years? And all of those have impacts. The impacts, what type of impact do you want to make? Do you want to shift? And what do you want to teach your children and great grandchildren in order for them to remember these teachings? I know that also not being at home, it really doesn't, I'm called to home, but I have my grandchildren here. And I don't want to leave my grandchildren, but I'm also needed back home. So I'm a little bit conflicted right now and asking the guidance. And that's the other thing is like my mentors, the female mentors that I have always looked up to, most of them are gone. My best friend, Cheryl Clark, died in February of last year. My only mentor that I hung around with and listened to her stories, I would take her out to dinner or lunch just to hear her story. I would ask her, Traylon Yellowwood, to tell me a story. And she would talk about back in the days with Colorado AIM, what life was like. And it was a little bit more militant back then, but all of the older leaders, Russell Means, all of the AIM chapters uniting. I came in about 24. And I just remember it was a time, there was a huge shift. And sometimes I would feel all alone in the work that I do for being one of the very few Native gardeners at the time in Denver and trying to figure out how I was going to do this work by myself if no one else was going to be able to help. So I figured that out. And as I got older, every 10 years and matured, I was able to figure out how to delegate, how to teach in a way that would impact more youth. And becoming involved with Spirit of the Sun in 2016, our board had switched. It was a new strategic plan. They changed the strategic plan from focusing on adults to elders and youth, Indigenous youth and young adults. So we started that, and I was the only staff at that time. And then we had the AmeriCorps capacity building program. So we had brought on 4 vistas, and that was the start of our programs. And unfortunately, it's a love-hate relationship with AmeriCorps, but this is our last year. Without AmeriCorps, it probably would have taken us twice as long. So I do thank AmeriCorps for that work and that part of it. Working with the feds and state officials has always been a love-hate relationship, but the program actually worked for us. And we started with $2,100 in the bank account, and now we are projected to be 1.1 million this year. So our goal is we're in the middle of a land back campaign. We have a gala coming up on June 22nd. We're trying to raise $2 million for a bison herd and to have our own land. Our garden spaces and farm spaces are owned by white folks, white males, and it has been a pretty good relationship so far. We don't have a complete autonomy, and this is what, for Native people, we're really nothing without land. So we have to be able to be strategic in doing our fundraising and being able to become self-sufficient. But the project that we have for bison is also to restore some native grasses in combination with a mycelium mother patch. Our mycelium, we have a patent to a super strain that will do a lot of remediation in a short span of time. And it works. So we are training and educating our youth. And I'm going to talk about more of that in our PowerPoint, but I'm going to go ahead and I think switch over to the PowerPoint and talk a little bit more about Spirit of the Sun's work. And it should be about 15 minutes, maybe, hopefully less than that. I'll try and breeze through that. And then I wanted to dive into some Q&A from the audience here and see if I can answer some of your questions, especially the folks who are further away around the world. I'm really happy and honored that I can be here and with you all in this message for Earth Day. We are an Indigenous women-led nonprofit located in Denver on Capitol Hill. We are on the homelands of the Southern Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Comanche, and 48 other tribes. So respectfully, when we start a project, a really huge project, I always ask the elders from this area first to have their blessing and to get permission. I don't do anything without permission. That is a protocol, and these are not my territories. Although my people help the Cheyenne acquire land back from the Crow. So we are historical allies and historical enemies of the Crow, unfortunately. And and that still happens today. When Crow people see you and they know you're Navajo, they will turn their head away from you. It's those protocols, I think, are still in place, unfortunately. So we are a staff of between 11 and 13. And we have our grant writer, our marketing and media, social media, Sidoni, director of operations, our HR, youth outreach coordinator, Shanoa. And we've had consultants in the past too. Our staff, Taylor is our food chair lead. Adelie, she just stepped back on the 20th this weekend. She's amazing. Nick and Giselle and Emelina are on board, and we're all running programs. We are a remote team, and it took us about a year and a half to get really well at being a remote team. And we save a lot of time, so we don't have to go to the office. And by not going to the office, we are saving a lot of time. And we are running programs, probably about 7 to 8 programs right now, our biggest being Elders Food Share. I'll talk about some of our other programs first. So Indigenous Toddlers and Teachings. We created this to uplift Native toddlers by being able to, I had talked about learning the foundation of being Native first. And so that foundation of connecting to the natural world is really critical. Our cultural connections to each other and our socializing for toddlers to be able to be around other Native and Indigenous toddlers is really critical right now because of the pandemic. We're still separate and quarantined and not doing a whole lot. So this is a good way for us to get all of the toddlers together once a month and do something fun outdoors or indoors if the weather's permitting. Our Mycelium Healing Project is one of our biggest projects too, and I'll go into that one a little bit later.
Shannon, hold on for a quick second. Are you seeing the slides progressing? Because I'm not.
I see them. I'm hitting next.
And are they going?
Are they going? Yeah.
Okay. It might be my. How about folks in the? Okay, other people are seeing them. Okay, great.
Oh, they can see them. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
I just had a little blip on my internet.
A lag.
So I'll just refresh my screen. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Our Mycelium Healing Project was created to address the Suncor Oil Refinery here in Commerce City, which is really a horrific oil refinery, which refines oil from tar sands in Canada and I believe Marathon Oil, which is from the Anishinaabe territories of the Great Lakes area. It emits a lot of contaminants and pollutants into the air. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We also have Indigenous Science and Foodways. This program was created with our Indigenous Agricultural Program and some of the other overlapping with Food Share, how to look at decolonizing our diets, being able to incorporate and reintroduce some of our indigenous plants and medicines back into our diet, especially for our elders. So everything for us is a lot about the elders. Like everything we do, we treat our elders like kings and queens. We want to promote longevity for them. So we're trying to help them if they want and request a food share. Everything that we grow, teas, plants, medicines, culinary herbs, we put that back into the elders' food share. We provide things like produce that might be a little bit more from different places. Some of it can be exotic produce, but we also put information in infographics on how to cook the produce and how to prepare, what health benefits that produce might have. So it's more of an education and training, and they can opt out of it. If they don't want it again, they'll let us know. If they request something, we have a lot of elders that want bison. So we try and get bison 4 times a year from Texas Tribal Buffalo Project in Texas. The bison are ethically harvested. They're raised by Native people. And it is a good relationship for us to be doing this work with Texas Tribal Buffalo Project. So they have also supported our Land Back campaign in helping us acquire land and had offered to donate a bison once we get land. So we're really excited about this relationship. Next slide. So Indigenous Science and Foodways is happening about once a month. We are going to be setting the next scheduled class here really soon in May. Indigenous Knowledge and Teachings, we were talking about that, the strong cultural connections and symbiotic relationships between humans, animals, insects, and the natural elements as relatives. So you can see the kids winnowing seeds, talking about seeds, talking to seeds. That's another activity that we do, is learning how to talk to seeds as babies, changing the language like elements to relatives to make it familiar. So we incorporate all of this into all of our programs and help our youth be able to see these organisms as living beings, as relatives. Another slide of our Indigenous Science and Foodways. We have cooking classes, and it's all Indigenous Native youth. And then here is more on the winnowing that you see on the right side of corn. We had a lot of corn seeds one harvest in 2021, and it took 50 people to harvest our corn rows. Mentorship program is another active program once a month. We take kids out all seasons. I know one season it was sledding. Another season it was going to a corn maze and doing something once a month, either indoors or outdoors. Most of our Native youth, I think it's up to 15. And we have BIPOC mentors as well too for the mentees. So it's a whole curriculum designed to really infuse a lot of cultural connections and cultural knowledge. We have a youth media hub as an extension of our other programs, but we had received a grant and we bought our own media equipment. And so some of our youth are going to be helping us with a digital storytelling project for the MHP project. So we had about, I think, a dozen kids in the 16-week digital arts course. And so now we're able to utilize these youth to document some other stories and record some of our elders' stories as well to preserve these stories. Outdoor Equity, we were a grantee and we were able to use this funding for everything outdoor, movement, connecting to the natural world. We have a Share Winter program. We take 50 youth up to Winter Park. It's through the Share Winter Foundation. Kids can ski, or they can choose to ski or snowboard 4 Sundays in a row. And it's usually, for them, it's really scary if they've never skied or snowboarded before, but it boosts confidence and self-esteem. And a lot of our kids are actually now skiing and snowboarding regularly. So it's really awesome. And that type of sport or activity, recreation activity, is very expensive. So we help our families get connected to get ski wear, ski gear, ski passes if they're really serious and wanting to continue the sport. Our Indigenous Agriculture and Food Systems program, we have several farms around Denver. We grow our own food, put it back into food share. We have workshops around the year focused on seed preservation, full cycle gardening, being able to cook the foods and prepare the foods. A lot of it is we want to go back to decolonizing our diet and introducing indigenous plants and medicines, more of that. One of our youth ended up doing a video on her blue corn tamales, and she has her own chilies that she grows, and she is, I think, 20 years old, Naomi Archuleta, and she started with us a few years ago. And so we've been able to help her, support her in the work that she wants to do to have her own brand of chili sauce. We have about 6 farms right now in Denver and acquiring a few more too until we end up getting our own farm. Our Native Elders Food Share is one of our oldest and longest running programs. I started running this out of the back of my truck during the pandemic. Everyone shut down, a lot of the nonprofit organizations that were distributing food, and so there was an excess of food. So a few others that had trucks, we would go around probably, I don't know how many hours, delivering to elders' homes, to homeless camps, anyone who needed food, we were able to provide food. And this was going up all the way to Montrose area. I was shuttling and delivering food for a whole year, pretty much through the first year of the pandemic. So it's grown. We have grants that support this, and we're really happy that it's a really thriving program for us. And I think the Mycelium Healing Project, I'll take a few minutes to talk about this. So this is an effort to do some micro-remediation around the Tier 1 area around the Suncor Oil Refinery. The Tier 1 is a 2-mile area radius. Suncor emits over 800 contaminants and pollutants, particulate pollutants, pretty much every day. And even though they're out of compliance, they have multiple violations, they still continue to function 24/7. Many people who are living around the Tier 1 area are sick, respiratory illnesses, cancer, headaches, migraines, nosebleeds. So we don't know the extent, but I know that when I've been to Suncor with a couple of demonstrations, and when you go there, you get a headache within an hour. It's more like a migraine. And I'm sure because of benzene, you can just smell everything. And then when you leave, it takes about an hour to go away. So if you can imagine folks that are living there within the Tier 1 area, what they're going through with their own health impacts. So we're trying to digitally record stories of elders that live around the area when we start our inoculations and inoculating their soil spaces. And our youth are going to be doing this and doing some training. Cultivando is one of our partners. We're hoping to train the promotoras and be able to educate so that we can start building mother patches around Suncor to start that border and wall of the increase in CO2 with the trees. So if we can inoculate our mycelium where there's trees, this mycelium will help increase the CO2s for the carbon sequestration that the trees process. Also helps plants. It helps with moisture retention. It addresses erosion control. So it also helps roots exchange nutrients, sugars. It's a communication system for them. So if you put your hand on one tree, the signals go out to all the rest of the trees and they know that you're there. This mycelium will help more with that. And it also, for us as humans, helps create new stem cells. It addresses PTSD, anxiety, and stress. So we are also training our kids to how to grow this as mushrooms for food. It's a small project. It's getting larger. It's becoming nationally known now. We were in the Civil Eats article, a newspaper, magazine, and so we had been interviewed. And here's Suncor, very horrific oil refinery. This is on a day that these plumes were orange, and then they sent out something apologizing to the community. The water is contaminated. The South Platte River is contaminated by this oil refinery and other businesses that are putting things into the water and contaminating the water. What is mycelium? Pretty much it's a connection nervous system that will remediate soil. If you have dead soil, this soil will help create life in the soil. So we know that this works. It's called Indigenous Foodscapes, and we inoculated about 2 years ago, and we didn't think we were going to be able to grow food the second year, and we were able to grow 1,500 pounds of food. So this really takes off really fast. There was a Gulf spill in Alaska, and they used mycelium for the cleanup to eat up the oil. We can talk more. If you're interested in learning more about our Mycelium project or becoming involved, we can definitely talk with you about that. And if you're Indigenous to a place that has disturbed soil, at one point we want to bring kids from different Indigenous lands, Indigenous homelands, and train them to be able to grow this mycelium in their own homelands so they can take some of the strain back. The thing is, you have to plant it or inoculate it very deep, and you have to have water. This mycelium cannot grow without moisture, but it works fast, and we want to share it with as many BIPOC, Native, Indigenous folks as possible. And this area that we know that's contaminated. We're starting small with everything, and then we're expanding outwards. So we're building collaborations, partnerships. Many of the partnerships we have also have food share programs, or they're doing something with farming, or they're doing something with nutrition and food. So we want to be able to focus on those partnerships and collaborations to be able to expand this program and share our mycelium. And here is our cohort, the MHP cohort for 2022 is young adults and youth. And we have our mycologist, James Weiser. He is non-native, but he is also going through his own accomplice training with us and learning how to be an accomplice. And they're blowing into the bags here, the mycelium bags. And the others are the sterile mycelium Peachtree dishes. There's a few more slides here. Do you want me to stop for questions, Joan, or do you want me to just keep going? This is one of our mycelium patches in the indigenous foodscapes.
I think you can do either one.
Okay. I'm almost done. I know. And I thought this was going to be a 15 to 20 minute slide deck, and it turns out it's not. So it's a larger one. But
I think that's fine. And we can just say anybody that has questions, put them in the chat.
Yeah.
But I think, just keep going is fine.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of our mycelium patches. All of this is mostly mulch. We were able to acquire some tree companies that bring 20 yards of mulch, and we layered it. We inoculated. He has logs here. We have shellfish, bison poop, which is food for the mycelium. So we have to spread that on top of the beds so that the mycelium can reach the beds, but they thrive in a lot of carbon. All of this whole front lawn was grass, like Kentucky bluegrass. And we've transformed it to an edible lawn now. And it's huge. I wouldn't even know like the dimensions, but it goes all around the house. So this is our timeline for Mother Patch building for the project. And we're a little bit behind on the timeline. We are working with youth and elders. And so we have to take into consideration communication and transportation. All of those are just barriers. And we're trying to work through those barriers with stipends, gas stipends, and things that when they show up, we make it a little bit more equitable for them. So this is all that's in the timeline. And right now we're probably in the August and December, and we're going to be inoculating and doing the collection of the data, soil testing, digital storage training. We're doing the community training on April 27th. That's mostly BIPOC folks with Cultivando, and it's about 60 people. The youth will be training promotoras, other youth, and elders from Cultivando and from Spirit of the Sun. And we're almost at time. The beneficial microorganisms, we just had our first soil test. The scientist who had done the soil test, she said she had never seen so many good predators in our sample than any other soil test that she's done. And there's good predators such as the nematodes and the amoebas that help kill bad bacteria. So this is something that's positive for us, and we know that this works, and we can see it in the soil that it works. And so we don't need the science to prove this. We already know it works. So this is more of the soil testing in parts per million of soil. And then we have here pictures of our mycelium here. So it's the bigger ones that go after the others. And you can see the little network here, the little string starting to form here, which is the mycelium. And 2 more pictures, here's more. Please check out Suncor Sundown, the film documentary. The community training that we're having upcoming on the 27th is going to be a takeoff to the Suncor Sundown film with the elders that we're going to be working with. And we're going to have something created hopefully within the next 3 years, and as far as the documentary to show to the world that our mycelium strain works. So if you have questions, let me know. This is a conclusion. We're hoping to grow this mycelium. Right now we're small, we want to expand, but we want to get good at what we're doing before we expand it some more. But we're hoping to get more youth on board from the community and be able to work with youth outside of Spirit of the Sun, outside, and start working with other gardens. And we have a social justice youth cohort circle with First Universalists. We've been building a relationship with First Universalists, and they are amazing, becoming accomplices, but we're going to be working with their youth circle in the farm that they're going to build and inoculate their space to, and start working with those younger youth and teaching them about mycelium as well too. I just want to say thank you for having me here today. I look forward to hopefully talking to all of you. You have my information. Follow us on our newsletter. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And share our gala, please, because we have to sell those tickets. We're trying to invite 30 Native elders, and we need to get those tickets paid for. But we want to get land as soon as possible. So hopefully this gala will help us boost that, and we'll be able to have our own bison herd and be a little bit more autonomous. So thank you so much for having me. You guys have a really good day, a good week, and make sure that you celebrate Mother Earth every day and love her every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for this amazing talk. And there's a lot of comments in there about how gorgeous the mycelium and the people doing all these things. And like Brenda was saying, just the idea about seeing organisms as relatives, and so many wonderful ideas here. And where I'm working now for Forest County Potawatomi, they do have some bison here as well in northern Wisconsin. So it's really neat to see the different things that people are doing around that area.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And great. There's some notes there where people are following you on Instagram and getting connected. And we really just appreciate you spending Mother Earth Day with us and reminding us about getting our hands in the soil to re-energize that genetic memory, and teaching our grandkids that Mother Earth loves them as much, and having that reciprocal relationship. That's just beautiful. Yeah. So thank you so much. All right. So yeah, thanks, Shannon. So and you guys, if you want to, if you need more notes about Shannon and her talk, remember to go on to our event platform and you'll be able to see those details there. So speakers, when you're leaving, you can just close out the tab if you want, or we'll also just move you back to an attendee. And we'll be starting here shortly with Kat Haber. And I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do about a 7-minute break, just so people have time to go run to the restroom, do whatever you want. And we're going to do our poetry and peace workshop coming up shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.